Wasteland. And in today's episode, we are looking at my entry into the Gaslands Time Extended Competition, the Mad Dog. So, you might be wondering, what is the Mad Dog? Well, if it's not obvious, the Mad Dog is a build that I've made mostly out of a cat truck 797F model. So you might be wondering, what is this? Why didn't I just do a big pirate ship looking thing? Because that's what most people were doing, right? Well, this comes from a few different things. I've always wanted to use the cat truck as a base model for something. It's quite an iconic building machine that you see in a lot of media, but hasn't quite been wastelanded up yet. So I thought, well, this could be a perfect opportunity for that. And an idea I've always had in the back of my mind is to do something like a music concert on wheels. I mean, we're so used to seeing doof wagons, and for that to be the standard for, you know, producing sound in the wasteland. I quite like the idea of doing something a bit bigger, a bit showier, and something with a bit more oomph to it. Not as many speakers, sadly, but a bit more rock and roll going on. So you might be wondering, where did the name Mad Dog come from? It comes from a few different places. This being a cat truck, you'd have thought, well, why not call it Mad Cat or something like that, which would tie in nicely with the controller brand Mad Cats. It's mainly come from a song by a band called Dangerous Toys called That Dog. As well as from the Micro Machines video game that you get on PlayStation 4 and way back on the original PlayStation, where they would name their cat trucks, they would name them dogs. So it ties in with a couple of different areas. You've got Mad Cat controllers, you've got That Dog song, and you've got dog trucks and Micro Machines. So how did I actually make this model? Because it's although you can go out there and just buy a scale model, sort of almost like a display model of a cat truck C797F, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to find something that wasn't going to cost me the bank, but at the same time would be recognizable enough. So I went to my local Asda, I had a look at what they had, and what they had was a very child safe toy, I guess. I mean, it even advertises that you can take it outside and play with it in the mud, so that's great. But the hard part, really, looking, it was already done. Like, the wheels are in the right place, it's already got the great big dump truck part at the back. All I would really need to do is completely rebuild the front of the truck and the radiator and the cab and put some lights on there, and basically all the hard work. So what started off as I guess this will do, slowly became a project in its own right, trying to remake the front. So I cut off all the junk bits. I cut off all the sections that they were too soft and child friendly. They just wouldn't have worked. They didn't look like a cat truck. Removed all that. And I started building it up with layers of Plasticard and green stuff, using cat truck photos as reference. The easiest way to build something is to just look at a picture of it and go, okay, let's just do that. The stage itself came from a couple of different directions. I needed to reshape the front of the truck because originally it was just flat. There wasn't that stylized kind of 3.3-sided shape at the front. So I needed to build that. I needed to flatten off the top to have this stage, and I thought, well, let's not do this solid. Let's just make it look like they put a cap on top and then just suspended it with metal poles and girders and whatever they had lying around. You know, they sort of scaffolded this stage into place, much like a real stage in real life. You know, they're temporary. They don't look like permanent features. And I wanted, with the band and with the stage, I wanted to have the ability to put different banners in place. I like the idea of having my own logo in the background, but I like the idea of having, classic rock bands have their logo there. So it could be Motley Crue, or it could be Dangerous Toys, or it could even be, from Fury Road. You could have a Warboy slogan on there, which would be cool. Most of the bits I used for the stage were actually new auto kill parts that are coming out that I got from Salute this year, and they're just fantastic because they've made more speakers, they've made more engines, they've made more of the good stuff that people are going to love when they hit the shelves. And that really helped because I could use things like the exhaust pipes in ways to make them look like loudspeakers or smoke launchers or headlights or whatever the hell I needed them to be. You can just angle them and position them, and there you go. As well as a giant engine on top as like a big symbol, a big head on the top of a banner. Originally, I was thinking of doing like a pirate's sort of birds, crow's nest on top of a mast running up the back of it, but I thought, nah, it's, pirate ships have a great big sail. This has got, the back of a stage, so it's similar. It'll do. No one will mind. Painting this was a bit of a challenge. I used up all the yellow paint that I had just doing the base of the truck itself, so that was fun. So I was then trying to figure out ways to make rusty orangey paint using red and beige. Like, how can I do this? Because I wanted the great big sort of horn in front of it to really stand out as a big rusty looking, menacing thing, like something they'd added on, but was surviving the wasteland like all metal things do. It's been quite a challenge in trying to find a balance between the cleaner metals and the chipped rust and the dirt, because I didn't want it to just be bright yellow like this had just rolled off a production line. Like, it's always about having filth on there, having echoes of its former life on there. I used the Games Workshop texture paint. God, they always have weird names. It's called Astra Granite Debris. Basically, it's a grey texture paint, and I could just scrape that on there to give that sort of dusty, mucky texture, like where mud and filth from its previous life had gotten left on there. And then it came to painting the band and the people. I wanted them to look like an 80s metal band. I was tempted to try and model a mohawk, but given the time that I had like a month to do this in between work, in between everything else, I settled in the end. I used the Keith Honeyman Raiders, as well as there's a Mantix demon babe on there that I like cut the tail and the wings off of, because you've got to have at least one woman. It can't just be a sausage fest in the wasteland. You've got to have some chicks out there. And I did some posing. This build has the most figures I've done on a build. I believe it's got 8 or 9 miniatures on there. Normally my builds would have 1 or 2. Like, up until this point, it was the doof wagon that I made had the most, with five people on it. So each time I'm pushing it, I'm adding more people, adding more. I guess you could call them after production effects or additions. Like I finished the build, I finished painting it, but now I've got these extra bits that I'm going to paint and then glue on at the end, because it's always easier to paint like little people and glue them on last rather than glue them in and then try and figure out how to get your paintbrush to like go into all these tight places to get the paints on. So yeah, I mean, that's the Mad Dog. I mean, there's a lot of things to say about it, but for the most part it sort of speaks for itself. I mean, I liked the idea, if you've got pirates and raiders in the wasteland, they're going to want, a good soundtrack while they're pillaging, but at the same time they're going to want a vehicle that can just smash into things and tear them apart. Like, that could just crash into the side of a war rig and be okay, because cat trucks are okay. They get into a hell of a lot of accidents that would just destroy other vehicles, but at the same time, they just come out of it without a scratch, or they just need to replace a tire, and the tires are massive, and the thing itself is enormous. So what's next for this build? Well, I did rush a few things to get it done for the competition. And I do need to go over it and touch some areas up. And at the time I was dreaming of like having lights and things that I could put into it, so it really looks like a stage lit up at night. But that can all happen now that it's done. But besides that, I mean, it's one of those ideas. If you've ever watched a film or watched a TV show, and it's left you with a feeling of, wow, I want to create something, or that was so cool, I want to do that. All right then, Wasteland, thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next episode when, yes, we finally talk about where I get all my materials from and all the shops I go to buy all the bits. And it's not as interesting as you think, but I'm going to do a long video on it, maybe 2 videos, just to get the information out there. And then we'll look at some crazy builds, and we've got more commissions lined up, so it's a hell of a time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, Wasteland. Okay, so I want to do a special shout out to everyone else who entered the pirate competition. So Foe Render, Bob Purvis, Harold Crossley, and Jake Zettelmaier. I hope you guys all do well. And I want to say a special shout out to everyone who subscribed in the last week. So Steve Reed, Simon Anderson, Lair of the Nerd, Ryan Navratil, Patrick Faulkner, Brian Brodier, Jack Cottle, Alexander Gill, Randy Alleman, Mechhead Studios, Jeremy Heller, Apothecary, Wayne Measures, Sweeney Built, and Dread Pirate Bob. Thank you guys for your support, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.